In the ever-growing community of people who believe some of the Egyptian pyramids, like the Great Pyramid of Giza, were not built by pharaohs, many seem to have accepted the hypothesis that the pyramids were actually ancient power plants. And for some reasons, it seems this hypothesis has been combined with the enigmatic life of Nikola Tesla to further support this raison d'être of the pyramids. The purpose of this video is not to discredit the power plant hypothesis, nor the Tesla connection. It is more of a discussion, which hopefully proponents of this hypothesis will find constructive. When making the connection between the Great Pyramid and Tesla, most people refer to Tesla's tower, also known as the Wardenclyffe Tower, and Tesla's failed endeavor to provide free energy to the world. Let's stop right here. Do people really believe for 1 second that had Tesla been successful, the world would have benefited from free energy? Tesla patented almost all his inventions. In lawyers' lingo, this is called intellectual property protection. Given that he had the backing of deep-pocket investors, notably JP Morgan, it seems doubtful Tesla was only guided by philanthropy. It could be argued that, not being a scientist, Tesla's way to publish his work and discoveries was to patent everything, including his ideas and work in progress. Nothing wrong with that. After all, Tesla's contemporaries like Guglielmo Marconi, Italian inventor of the radio wave-based wireless telegraph system, did the same. Actually, Tesla even sued Marconi for patent infringement. The main difference between Tesla and Marconi was that Marconi's invention had some immediate practical industrial application, and Marconi soon after became a quite successful entrepreneur, while Tesla was still struggling to demonstrate the economic value proposition of switching a few lights at a distance with the equivalent power output for an entire small town. JP Morgan was probably not the average Mr. Nice Guy, but in today's world, not many venture capitalists will blame him for pulling the plug on Tesla's wireless power transmission endeavor, no pun intended, to focus his capital on the other elements in his investment portfolio. But let's assume Tesla was really guided by some utopian vision. Today, many people who refer to the Tesla coil or the Tesla tower do not really understand how Tesla intended to use these inventions for wireless power transmission. And the reason for this is that probably Tesla was not sure himself. In his patent 649621, apparatus for transmission of electrical energy, filed on February 19, 1900, and granted less than 3 months later on May 15, 1900, Tesla clearly stated that the phenomenon is one of true conduction, not to be confounded with electrical radiation, referring to the work of Marconi for wireless signal transmission with radio waves. From that, it can also be understood that Tesla was not referring to the laws of electromagnetism either. As a reminder, the decrease in the strength of a magnetic field as the distance increases follows an inverse square law. In short, any explanation of the transmission of significant electrical power over long distances based on radio waves or electromagnetism is partially wrong at best in the context of Tesla's inventions. So then, what did Tesla mean when he said true conduction? His patent 649621 actually built on an earlier patent of his, patent 645576, System of Transmission of Electrical Energy, filed more than 2 years before on September 2, 1897, and granted on March 20, 1900. Tesla probably waited until he got some sign from the patent office that the first patent application was going to be granted before filing the second one. This should be an indication that the real meat is in the earlier patent 645576. Indeed, in this earlier patent, Tesla stated, "Expressed briefly, my present invention, based upon these discoveries, consists then in producing at one point an electrical pressure of such character and magnitude as to cause thereby a current to traverse elevated strata of the air between the point of generation and a distant point at which the energy is to be received and utilized." So what Tesla really meant when he said true conduction was energy transmission via plasma in the higher layer of the Earth's atmosphere. After reading patent 645576 and patent 649621, one may wonder what is so different between the two inventions that justified a second patent application. Even the schematics look almost exactly the same. In fact, there is a subtle change but of significant importance. In the later patent 649621, Tesla replaced the elevated strata of the air with the natural medium. This change was made throughout the patent application and in particular in all the claims of the patent. Now, what did he mean by natural medium? Was this a simple generalization to include different air layers, so not to limit his invention to only the elevated strata, which are more electrically conductive and which he mentioned in the first patent? The answer to this question came rather quickly after the second patent. Actually, Tesla could not wait more than a single day before filing a patent application for his real piece of resistance. Forget about the Tesla coil and the Tesla tower. Those were only means to an end. On May 16, 1900, one day after his patent 645576 was granted, Tesla submitted patent application Art of Transmitting Electrical Energy Through the Natural Mediums. Notice the plural form for mediums. Patent 787412 would eventually be granted to Tesla on April 18, 1905, almost 5 years after the initial application filing with the Patent Office. In a nutshell, in this patent, Tesla claimed it was possible to transmit electrical power via the Earth. So, contrary to what most people believe and popular depictions, Tesla's idea, at least in the later iterations, was not to use the air as the medium to transmit electrical power, but to provide a return path for the current sent via the Earth with massive electrical discharges. The main obstacle Tesla faced for the acceptance of his discovery and invention was that
you're everyone's problem. That's because every time you go up in the air, you're unsafe. I don't like you because you're dangerous.
At that time, the scientific community had established almost as a dogma that electromagnetic waves were transverse waves. In a transverse wave, the oscillations are perpendicular to the direction of the propagation of the wave. Tesla essentially alluded to the fact that electromagnetic waves could also be longitudinal, meaning that the waves oscillate in the direction which is parallel to the direction of propagation of the waves, like sound waves or seismic waves. It was only in 1907 that Jonathan Zenneck showed that electromagnetic waves could exhibit surface wave property and thus be longitudinal in their propagation, without contradicting the sacrosanct Maxwell's equations of electromagnetism. But even then, for some rather superficial reason, the controversy surrounding Zenneck waves would continue for many years after his demonstration.
That's right. Nice, man. I am dangerous.
Interestingly, in 2020, more than a century later, an international team published this paper where they showed the feasibility of wireless power transmission using longitudinal Zenneck waves, with acceptable performances up to 8 meters. With all this in mind, we can now see why referring to Tesla to explain that the pyramids are free energy transmitting machines is not well grounded, no pun intended, from historical, engineering, and scientific perspectives. But before, if you have not liked and subscribed yet, please do so now, as what follows might be a little bit cryptic, and you might drop out early. But don't worry, even I, an average hobbyist gardener, could understand Tesla's work. While he was still waiting for the patent office to grant him a patent for his Earth-based power transmission discovery, Tesla was still dead focused on creating the most powerful electrical discharges capable of turning the Earth into a giant conductor with electromagnetic longitudinal waves. On January 18, 1902, he filed a patent application for an apparatus for transmitting electrical energy, which many people associated, for good reason, to the Wardenclyffe Tower. This one was going to take more than 12 years to get final approval on December 1, 1914, under patent 1119732. In this patent, he clearly referred to patents 645576 and 649621, without ever mentioning his groundbreaking discovery, pun intended, covered in patent 787412, for the simple reason that this third patent was not yet granted. Nevertheless, in his Wardenclyffe Tower patent, Tesla does refer to distribution of energy through the natural or non-artificial media, and not simply the air, several times. This detail is to be viewed with the fact that nowhere in the patent are there any mentions about the direction of the flow of the electromagnetic energy the tower was going to produce, in sharp contrast with the earliest patent 645576, where the direction of the energy flow in the air is clearly expressed. In a nutshell, the functioning principle of the Wardenclyffe Tower was most probably to accumulate as much electrical charge as possible in the rounded top and discharge the energy accumulated to the Earth at the base below. The rounded top will act as stormy clouds and the electrical discharge produced similar to a lightning bolt. Tesla actually made his earth-shattering discovery. Sorry, I know I should stop with these silly plays on words. I was saying that Tesla made his longitudinal electromagnetic waves discovery by studying the effects of natural lightning bolts on the Earth. But to achieve what he had in mind for wireless power transmission, Tesla needed to not only hammer the Earth with even greater power, but also, and most importantly, at a very high frequency. The innovation in his patent relates to achieving what Tesla calls high electrical pressure, or a combination of very high voltage and high frequency, and working around the principle that higher electrical capacities normally entail lower frequencies. Of utmost importance, the accumulation of charges must avoid any leakage to the ambient air before the energy is discharged to the ground. So the curvature of the different elements forming the top section of the tower are thoughtfully designed to control the charge density of the structure to avoid premature ionization of the air molecules, which can lead to an electrical breakdown, also known as electrical spark. Anyone serious about working with plasma and electricity in general knows that electrical sparks are no good, except in a few applications like spark welding. In the context of the Tesla Tower, this is even more important, as leakages due to electrical breakdowns will prevent achieving maximum electrical pressure. But sure, a Tesla coil emitting gigantic sparks is more fun to watch on YouTube, so I do not blame my fellow YouTubers for doing just that. Assuming Tesla's tower will have eventually worked as intended, if JP Morgan had continued to financially support him, the worst shape for subsequent versions of the tower will have been that of a pyramid. With a pyramidal shape, the charge density at the top will not be minimized, but maximized, leading to not only premature, but also permanent energy leakage. Therefore, the idea that the pyramids could transmit the electricity they produce from the summit to a distant location goes against what Tesla envisioned for wireless energy transmission. So, if the pyramids can somehow produce electricity, their functioning principles surely are not the same as that of Tesla's tower. That is not to say that I don't think the pyramids cannot be power plants. If this video gets enough likes, I will make a follow-up video on the obvious functioning principle of the pyramids. Well, with my limited hobbyist gardener understanding. But I doubt anyone watched this video until this point anyway. In any case, if you are curious about what a permanent ionization of the air can be used for, check out this video. And to my subscribers, rest assured that I will continue posting videos about gardening. Thank you for watching.